Hey, and welcome back to the Manifestation and Money podcast. Today I'm joined by Vasheti Kiros, nonprofit leader turned founder of the Well Balanced CEO. Vasheti opens up about the hidden toll of chasing success, her shocking brain tumor diagnosis, and the powerful manifestation tools that helped her rebuild a life of purpose, balance, and alignment. This episode is a beautiful reminder that true wealth starts within, and that honoring your joy, health, and authenticity is the most powerful manifestation of all. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, the show where we tackle the taboo topics of money and manifestation. I'm your host, Jenny Schultz, former 9-to-5 grinder who ditched the status quo and went all in on creating a life I love. Yes, I use manifestation. Yes, I took action. And yes, I created a 7-figure net worth before turning 40. Every week, I'll bring you inspiring stories with money mavens and manifestation masters. From learning how to make more, save more, and grow your wealth to unlocking the power of manifesting your dream life. I am so excited to play in this space with you. Let's jump into creating a life you love. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Vasheti.
Thank you, Jen. Happy to be here.
I'm pumped to chat with you today, and I would love for you to share with the listeners who you are and what your story is.
My name is Vasheti Kiros, and I work with nonprofits, and I've had quite a journey to get to where I am, and it has taken me a lot of manifestation to be able to survive my journey. I'll start with that. Yeah, survive my journey to be here today and to be with you today, I'll say.
Yeah, and let's dig into that because people sometimes go into the lens of manifestation that it's all roses and butterflies.
Yes.
But it doesn't always start that way, right? So I would love for you to really share your story with the listeners so they can hear where you came from.
So I started with this like big dream of working for a nonprofit and really having this desire to lead a nonprofit. I was very fortunate to have an opportunity to start my career working at Walt Disney World, and that gave me such big exposure to seeing so many families happy and just glorious at the happiest place in the world, right? And so that just really sparked a enthusiasm for me to want to continue creating happy moments for families throughout my career. After leaving Walt Disney World, I landed in the nonprofit world, and that was really where my heart really landed in wanting to create these moments for families, and which was perfect, right? So I stayed in the nonprofit sector and worked my way up, and obviously worked into an executive director role and felt that I made it, right? And it was this dream job. I had an opportunity to really build the staff and the organization of my dreams, and really quickly realized that working in the nonprofit space was hard. It was definitely hard. It was not very well recognized, or you really were set up somewhat for, sometimes for failure. And a lot of times I was under-resourced, and I struggled to really succeed in the roles that I was given. I started looking around and just noticing that the work really was difficult. But I was so determined. I am a manifester by design. And so I very much a determined person. So when I see something, I go for it. And I built an amazing organization serving, it was music therapy based. We started with around a $250,000 budget. And I think we had one part-time music therapist. We had one program serving about 15 students. And within 5 years, we had built that up to almost $1 million in funding and serving about 5,000 individuals of all ages and abilities, mostly young people though, because they had the highest need, and all mostly 98% free of services. and all grant funded. And it was just amazing. I had 8 music therapists that were paid. They were all paid. And they had health insurance. It was just a beautiful organization. And we were in operation for 8 years. And so it was just an amazing run. And then I had some slight symptoms that I didn't pay any attention to, of course, because I was so busy paying attention to everybody else's needs and overlooking my own. And this is what I think a lot of people do. A lot of women, I will say, do when they are taking care of other people.
Yeah.
And I noticed this in hindsight, of course, after the fact. But I took the path of least resistance and at the time went for an eye exam and was told that I had fluid on my optical nerves and that I should go and receive a more in-depth exam to see what was going on because there was something more serious going on. At the time, had just a slight decrease in my vision and some minor headaches and some slight tingling in my left hand. I didn't have really serious symptoms to really trigger me to think that there was something very serious going on. But it was enough for me to think maybe I should go and get this exam at the hospital. And I went and they ended up giving me an MRI. That MRI ended up discovering that I had a brain tumor.
Wow.
It was a pretty abrupt diagnosis.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Especially going from what you said were mild symptoms to bam, getting news like that.
Yeah, and when I say it was a brain tumor, it was not like a small one. It was 7 centimeters.
Holy smokes. Wow. So yeah, you've got a sizable brain tumor living inside your head.
Yes, it was really like at that moment, everything pretty much, I stopped dead in my tracks, and it was like the before and after of my life at that time. Everything stopped for me pretty much. I can recall that it's like hearing the words just became like an echo. And I just remember the hospital room just being so stale and so like everything just zoomed out. And I was told basically I wasn't given any options. Like, usually you are potentially given options for radiation or there's some type of plan that's given to you. And I was given basically, you've got 2 weeks to get your affairs in order. You have to have a craniotomy. You have to have brain surgery.
Wow. So where do you even begin when you get news like that?
I just stopped. The shock was like, and I think for me, what happened was as a person who was so used to taking care of everybody, I just froze into like the shock of how am I going to survive? I didn't know if I was going to wake up from the surgery, to be honest. I didn't know if I was going to make it past that brain surgery. So at this point, it became survival mode for me, and everything became like from one day to the next. At that time, I was not in any way in my spiritual lens. Like, I was completely cut off. I was not allowing myself to expand spiritually.
Okay.
And that was really blocking me so much. And I didn't realize it
Mm.
until after the fact. So many things expanded for me after my surgery because I realized how much I was restricted.
Wow. Sometimes they say you need that wake up call. Do you think that your surgery for you was a wake up call to
Oh,
pivot into something completely different afterwards?
in so many ways. My life has changed so completely. It's so weird because you to say that like a brain tumor changed my life for the better is sounds so weird to say that, but it really has because I mean, first I have to say that the recovery, so I made it through the surgery. Yay, I'm here. But the fear that I felt going into that surgery, not knowing if I was going to wake up, was so overwhelming that like I said, the shock, the fear, all of the things. Me and my husband had to have my cousin come and take notes for us because both of us couldn't process. For anybody listening, if you ever go through something like this, have somebody go with you to take notes for you because you will need that like grounding and sounding board for you if you're like in this state of shock. And then but after the fact, I never asked about recovery. I never asked because it like happened so fast.
Mhm.
So, and that recovery part, that like lasted 3 months. I had to learn like all of my basic skills. I had to learn to walk, to talk, to think cognitively. And the recovery still is with me today. I have chronic daily migraines as a result of the surgery. I will never be the same again, so these are things that I live with as a result of the tumor. I did have a reoccurrence and I had to have proton radiation 2 years after, so in 2020 and that was fun. All of these things that have continued to happen. And, I think the biggest part of this occurrence or this thing that has happened to me is acceptance and coming to accept what has happened to me, learning how to adapt to the things that I live with now and
Mhm.
the ways that I have grown as a result. And so I've grown so many ways. I have learned that my worth is not based on my output. That is like the number one lesson. I have opened myself up so much more to my spirituality, which I thought I had to like wear a mask before in my workplace and hide that I was a spiritual person.
Mhm.
And so hide that I was into astrology or hide that I was a manifester and hide these things. And so now I'm like, hey, this is me.
And
Woohoo.
I wonder too, you hear stories like this and you hear yeah, you're doing the things, and you're hiding pieces of you, and how that can manifest in your body as a hidden brain tumor. You are hiding pieces of you, and literally you are growing something inside of you that is also hiding from you.
Yes.
And how once you can be yourself, typically the body can be free of so many more diseases because their body is not in this place of not being at ease, dis-ease, right? And that what can come from
Right.
that. So now that you're embodying,
Your
like you said, used to
authentic
hide your
self.
authentic self, because I used to be like that. I called myself a closet manifester, right? It's part of who I
Yeah.
am. So now that I could just talk about it and people are curious and have conversations about it, I'm like, this is a way funner way to be, because you're able to have authentic conversations with people because you're being you. You're not just this
Right.
shell of who you think you have to show up as.
Right.
Yeah.
And for so many years, I felt restricted.
Mm.
And I felt like I was leading from with behind this mask.
Mhm.
In, hindsight, like I said, I look back and I I mean, I was not my full self. And how could I be the leader, the full authentic person and leader that I desire to be if I am not authentically feeling that within myself? And if I am not authentically feeling full and fully who I am for me.
Right. So now how do you find you're showing up in your work?
I am no longer an executive director. I actually opened my own business and am in business for myself, which I absolutely love because I don't have to report to a board. I get to work for nonprofits and I get to choose the nonprofits that I work for, which I absolutely love because I love the work that nonprofits do and I love the impact that they make. And choosing who I get to support and who I get to help make impact in the world is a dream of mine. And so that is something that I get to continue to support. And I get to support the leaders, the women leaders in nonprofits, in helping them discover that they can be their authentic selves and that they don't need to hide behind a mask and that they can come out of their closet and that they can discover who they are within them authentically. A lot of women leaders, and the majority of them are women in nonprofits, and a lot of them are held down by that scarcity mindset. Unfortunately, they are put in positions where they are set up for failure.
Mm.
And they need that reassurance. They need to know that they are worthy and that they do have what it takes to be able to bring those dollars in to support the projects that they are working on. A lot of times they don't get the reassurance that they deserve.
That's sad to hear that they're kind of set up to fail. How do you embrace them to wholeheartedly be themselves in that role, but also to not have that scarcity mindset?
So I help them with fundraising, first of all. First and foremost, I help them with fundraising. I have strategies that I support executive directors with, a lot of, and mostly small grassroots to maybe mid-size, but I like to work with the smaller nonprofits.
Mhm.
And I like to help them set up fundraising strategy. And typically, with executive directors who have no or minimal development staff, and with those executive directors who are also doing a lot of it on their own. I like to help executive directors who are a lot of times kind of like I was. I was a executive director who was kind of a one-man show, one woman show. I had one assistant who was an amazing assistant and she helped me with so many things, but she wasn't necessarily supportive with the fundraising. So while I wore so many hats as the executive director, I also managed the majority. I was also responsible with for the fundraising. And so I had a team of 8 music therapists, and I was responsible for bringing in all of the dollars to make sure that they received full-time pay, and all of them received their benefits. So that was my main role, was making sure that they were all receiving on the back end, that they all received their pay, to make sure that they did the absolute critical work that was needed in our community for the people that needed it. And we had programs serving veterans with PTSD. We had programs serving Native children that had really high needs. We had programs serving seniors with Alzheimer's. So we had these really high needs and super skilled music therapists. So getting them paid was key, a high priority for me.
Yeah. So if you're working now with women who, like you said, a lot of them have a scarcity mindset, how do you get them to embody wealth? And I know in your show notes, it had said like embody wealth from the inside out. And I was like, ooh.
I do master classes for free, and then that is really how I inform people about my services. And I also have a book that just came out. Yeah, it's called Women Who Lead, Volume 2, and it's actually an anthology. So I have a chapter in this book. This provides a little bit more about my story and about what I do with nonprofits. So I would definitely encourage folks to take a look and buy a book as well, because there is other chapters in here of other women leaders who have gone through some other issues that have turned them over a new leaf as well. But what I take people through is an 8-step manifestation process.
Ooh.
And this is something that I find has been useful for me and has been really helpful in helping me reach and connect with my desires as I've continued to grow myself throughout these past several years, post brain tumor.
Yeah, amazing. And I love how you're incorporating that in. Yes, bring manifestation into the business world, bring it into the leadership,
Yes.
bring it into this big, expansive picture of what you want to be building out, instead of the cookie cutter picture that we feel that we're supposed to be building out, right?
Right.
I love that you're doing that. And I always like to finish with one of my favorite questions, because I like just to get those little golden nuggets. What is your biggest piece of advice that you'd have to go out and truly step into a life they love?
Oh, do something that brings you joy, and do it with your whole heart and mind, and don't overdo whatever you do. Don't overdo it. I mean, do it to when it brings you joy, and don't overdo whatever you do. I mean, really do it till it brings you joy, and don't overdo it.
I love that piece of advice, because so many people, they pick up a thing, a hobby or whatever they're doing, and they're doing the thing. And sometimes you hit that point where that has satisfied you enough
Yeah.
that you're allowed to be like, okay, now I'm going to switch gears and go follow this new thing that excites me, right? So I love that you
Yeah.
shared that. That is a very
Yeah.
important piece of advice.
We often can burn out on just about anything. My business is called Well Balanced CEO, and burnout, I really try to avoid that. So be mindful of burnout.
Yeah, be mindful of burnout in all areas. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing that. I would love for you to share where listeners can reach out, catch more of you. We know about the book. I will be sure to drop that in the show notes.
You can find me anywhere at Well Balanced CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Website is Well Balanced CEO, my Instagram, my Facebook. So you can find me anywhere at Well Balanced CEO. We made it easy.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today and having this conversation.
Thank you, Jen. It's been a blast.
Thank you for hanging out with me on the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you're ready to take your manifesting to the next level, come join me inside the Manifestation Playground. It's an intentional space I've created to explore, experiment, and expand your manifestation potential. It's where the magic happens. So head on over to www.manifestationplayground.ca to find out more. Until next time, keep dreaming, Keep taking aligned action. Cheers to creating a life you love.